The morning Marcus walked into the courthouse felt heavier than winter, the kind of gray that seeped into bones and refused to leave. The sky hung low and unmoving, as if the world itself had paused to witness the quiet end of something that once mattered. He had imagined this day so many times that it felt rehearsed, a simple exchange of signatures, a closing chapter wrapped in legal language and polite distance. But nothing prepared him for the moment his eyes lifted from the folder clenched in his hands and his breath stopped, sharp and painful, right there in the hallway that smelled of old paper and regret. Time slowed in a way that felt cruel. Standing a few steps away was Alina, the woman he had once loved enough to build a future with. Her face was calmer than he remembered, her posture steady, her presence composed. But beneath her coat was a truth so undeniable it shattered every illusion he had brought with him. She was 7 months pregnant. The sight froze him in place, as if the universe had decided to hold him still and make him feel every ounce of what he had lost. In that single moment, everything Marcus believed about his life collapsed inward. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, take a moment right now to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, comment your thoughts, and subscribe to Kindness Corner. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Your support truly means more than you know. Marcus had replayed this day 100 times in his mind, but every imagined version ended quietly. This one detonated without warning. The divorce was supposed to be clean and final, a necessary ending to something that had slowly worn itself thin. He had told himself that love sometimes simply ran out, that people could part without villains or victories. Yet seeing Alina like this cracked open emotions he had buried beneath months of silence and pride. The pregnancy wasn't just a surprise. It was a mirror, forcing him to confront how little he truly knew about the woman he once shared a life with. Their marriage hadn't collapsed in one dramatic explosion. It eroded, slowly, relentlessly. Long work hours stretched into nights, nights turned into habits, and habits turned into distance. Marcus believed providing stability meant sacrificing presence. He worked harder, stayed later, convinced himself that love could wait. Alina needed connection more than comfort. She needed to be seen, heard, chosen in small moments that Marcus kept postponing. Conversations were delayed until they disappeared altogether, replaced by tired nods and unspoken disappointments. When the distance grew unbearable, neither of them fought hard enough to cross it. The separation came quietly, polite and restrained, like two strangers agreeing to forget something precious. Somewhere after that, life continued without his knowing. And now it stood before him in undeniable form. Alina carried herself with a quiet strength Marcus had always admired but never fully understood. The months apart had changed her. She had learned to survive disappointment, fear, and loneliness in ways Marcus never had to. When she discovered she was pregnant, the ground beneath her had shifted violently. There had been no dramatic rescue, no immediate certainty. Just fear, confusion, and a decision that demanded courage. She chose responsibility over resentment. She rebuilt her life slowly, one day at a time, without bitterness and without demands. The child growing inside her became her reason to wake up, to endure, to believe that endings could still give birth to something meaningful. Marcus, meanwhile, had remained emotionally frozen. He filled his days with routine, his nights with rationalizations. He told himself, walking away was easier than failing again. That starting over required less vulnerability than fixing what was broken. He wore independence like armor, convincing himself that distance equaled strength. But that illusion shattered the moment he realized the future he abandoned had not waited for him. Regret settled heavy in his chest, mixed with a fear he had never known before. The fear of being irrelevant to a life that might have been his greatest responsibility. As the legal process moved forward, the silence between them grew louder than any argument they had ever shared. Marcus began noticing details he once overlooked. The careful way Alina rested her hands over her belly. The patience in her movements. The tired strength in her eyes that came from facing nights alone. He wondered how many moments she had endured without support, how many fears she had swallowed to keep going. The realization humbled him. For the first time, he questioned whether leaving had been courage or simply avoidance disguised as dignity. Weeks passed, and the weight of that realization refused to lift. Marcus couldn't return to who he had been before that hallway. Something had shifted, painfully and permanently. He began to understand that love didn't vanish when people failed each other. It waited, bruised and quiet, for accountability. He sought help, not to erase the past, but to understand the man he had become. He learned that being present required courage, not control. That listening demanded more strength than speaking. Slowly, painfully, he stopped defending his choices and started examining them. Change didn't come in grand gestures. It arrived in consistency, in showing up without expectations, in respecting boundaries without resentment. Marcus learned to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. He offered support without conditions, understanding that forgiveness could not be demanded, only earned through time and action. Trust did not return overnight. Healing never does. It grows through effort repeated without guarantees. Alina noticed the change quietly. She didn't rush it. Pregnancy had taught her patience in ways nothing else could. She had learned that strength did not mean hardness. It meant discernment. She allowed space for possibility without surrendering her independence. The past was still painful, the wounds not fully closed. But something had undeniably shifted between them. The anger had softened into clarity. The distance into awareness. As the pregnancy neared its final weeks, they stood at a crossroads neither had expected. The divorce papers were still valid. The history still complicated. The future uncertain. Yet what once felt like an ending now resembled an unanswered question. They were no longer the same people who had failed each other before. They were individuals reshaped by loss, responsibility, and humility. Marcus realized that love was not proven through perfection, but through accountability. Alina realized that forgiveness did not mean forgetting pain. It meant choosing not to let it define what came next. If this story is touching your heart so far, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Your engagement helps stories like this reach people who may need them most. In the quiet days before the child's arrival, Marcus understood that some moments redefine a person forever. Seeing Alina 7 months pregnant on the day of their divorce had not been a punishment. It had been a wake-up call. Life had given him a second chance. Not guaranteed, not promised, but possible. And whether that chance led to rebuilding a family or simply becoming a better man, he vowed not to waste it. When the day finally came and a new life entered the world, it arrived without fanfare but with profound weight. Marcus stood humbled, aware that love is not measured by how tightly we hold on, but by how deeply we are willing to grow. Alina looked forward, not bound by the past, but strengthened by it. In that fragile beginning, the story revealed its truth. Even the most painful endings can open the door to grace, healing, and renewal if the heart is brave enough to accept responsibility. Just before we end, we have a special request. Please comment one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words matter more than you think. And as you carry this story with you, remember this. Life doesn't always offer clean endings or perfect timing. Sometimes it gives us mirrors instead. Moments that force us to see who we've been and who we still have the power to become. If this story reminded you that growth is possible, that forgiveness can heal, and that second chances are worth earning, please like this video, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and share it with someone who needs hope today. Because sometimes, the moment that breaks us is the one that finally teaches us how to live.